Hey peeps, Tyler here with a book review for The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. Many tabs. I will be reading the synopsis. From New York Times bestselling co-author of The Coddling of the American Mind, an essential investigation into the collapse of youth mental health and a plan for a healthier, freer childhood. After more than a decade of stability or improvement, the mental health of adolescents plunged in the early 2010s. Rates of depression and anxiety, self-harm, and unaliving, this is YouTube, rose sharply, more than doubling on many measures. Why? In The Anxious Generation, social psychologist Jonathan, I apologize, I don't know how to say that last name, lays out the facts over the epidemic of teen mental illness that hit many countries at the same time. He then investigates the nature of childhood, including why children need play and independent exploration to mature into competent, thriving adults. He shows how the play-based childhood began to decline in the 1980s and how it was finally wiped out by the arrival of the phone-based childhood in the early 2010s. He presents more than a dozen mechanisms by which this great rewiring of childhood has interfered with children's social and neurological development, covering everything from sleep deprivation to attention fragmentation, addiction, loneliness, social contagion, social comparison, and perfectionism. He explains why social media damages girls more than boys and why boys have been withdrawing from the real world into the virtual world with disastrous consequences for themselves, their families, and their societies. Most important, he issues a clear call to action. He diagnoses the collective action problems that trap us and then proposes 4 simple rules that might set us free. He describes steps that parents, teachers, schools, tech companies, and governments can take to end the epidemic of mental illness and restore a more humane childhood. He has spent his career speaking truth backed by data in the most difficult landscapes. Communities polarized by politics and religion, campuses battling culture wars, and now the public health emergency faced by Gen Z. We cannot afford to ignore his findings about protecting our children and ourselves from the psychological damage of a phone-based life. And I gave it a strong 4 stars, 4.25. What I wrote on Goodreads, it's horrible what the internet and social media has done to children. While I might have little nitpicks, overall I highly recommend this book to everyone, but especially to parents or anyone who works with children. There are studies and data and real-life experiences we've screwed over childhood. Human children, mammals in general, but humans included, evolved to learn through a lot of play. And humans are unique in our prolonged childhood. Tech companies knowingly hack children's brains to keep them on their smartphones. They've admitted it. There was a whistleblower for Facebook about them admitting that they don't give a shit that they're screwing over children's brains, that they're hacking. They know what they're doing, and they don't care. It's all about that money. I'm going off more than what I wrote on Goodreads, but when I was a kid, born 1989, so I'm not that old, phones had cords and were attached to the walls, and certainly didn't have internet or any apps. The worst thing that came from that phone for me was getting wrapped up in the phone cord. Dear God, now I feel ancient. And I still didn't escape everything in this book, because safetyism, which is explained in the book, began before I was born. But social media has caused an avalanche of issues. I had dial-up internet on the family computer everyone could see you using when I was 13. I had MySpace in high school, which is very unlike social media today, which is so much worse. I don't remember any scrolling on MySpace. My mind sucks, so if somebody can remember it better than me, but I don't think there was any scrolling, so there was like no doom scrolling. You just had friends that I can remember, and music. I was always trying to figure out how to set up my profile and what music I wanted, I think. But was it like Twitter and, oh my good lord, MySpace was nothing like the social media of today. On that dial-up. I think I was also on dial-up on MySpace. Before I was 20, there was broadband internet, and Facebook had finally opened itself to the public. Social media as it is today didn't really start until my 20s. I'm only 35, and I can't believe all that has happened in my life. But yeah, I highly recommend this book to everyone, but especially if you have or work with children. There are things, like the synopsis mentions, ways we can fix this, but it would take working together, which right now seems absolutely impossible, but I know it's not. And this does affect everybody, even though it barely affects me because I don't have children and I don't work with children. But we're all on this social media, internet. Like, I've got an awful lot of social media. I've deleted my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, and I'm not saying other people have to. That's not what I'm saying. Because, like, children's brains and adults' brains are very different, even though it affects all of us. We've really screwed over the kids in an entire generation. Like, when their brains are still developing. Everybody knows your brain develops somehow until you're like 25. But of course, even a 5-year-old's brain is different than a 15-year-old's brain, which is, different than a 30-year-old's brain. Like, we all know this. And I don't know where I was going with that exactly. But, yeah, I'm not saying anybody has to delete their social media. Unless you're under 13, in which case you shouldn't have social media. But if you're an adult, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I couldn't handle all that social media. That's why I deleted it. I'm not saying other people have to. But I could not handle that social media because of reasons. Like, I'm still here on YouTube. I have Reddit and Tumblr and Substack. That might be it. So I'm not technically off the internet. I'm still on the internet and on social media. So, yeah. Highly recommend this book. But especially if you're a parent or have children. It's not hopeless, but it does currently scare the shit out of me. So, that's my review. Let me know if you've read this. What are your thoughts? Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.